What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Tastes Like Music. Jason and Joe here. It is our albums of the year for 2025. One of my favorite videos to make every year. I've listened to a ton of music this year, more than ever. And yeah, we've got it down to our top 25s. I think we are further apart than ever before. I don't know what Joe is on Joe's list, but there's maybe one or two opportunities where we could line up, but I think there's a good chance that we have zero in common this year.
Which seems to be the way it just has been going between us. I know you listened to a lot this year. I also listened to the most I've ever listened to for a single year. I ended up with 276 albums, and I mean, honestly, the last 100 or so were useless. So I wasted a lot of time listening to new music here in 2025. And overall, I think it's a pretty good year though. But it's pretty much like all the other years post like 2007 for me. It's like very at the very top. There's some maybe classics that I'll come back to. And then everything else I enjoyed, you know, but I don't think I'll come back to my, you know, three or four favorite album through, 75, which is about how many four-star albums I had. A lot of stuff I enjoyed listening to, not a lot that I'll probably come back to, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it always remains to be seen how much records will stick, but yeah, I feel like this year was a little weaker than the last couple, um, but still, so much good stuff. I listened to 514 albums in full this year. And it would have been 515, but the Peter Criss record isn't streaming right now. So, anyways, yeah, let's get into the lists. Before we get to the list proper, the top 25s, I just wanted to once again mention the record that we put out earlier this year by Nordista Freeze, On the Banks of Disappearing. I have a copy right here. Produced by me, recorded with Jake Hanner at his studio. He mixed it. I made the album art and the lyric sheet. Um, a lot of planning and effort and time and money went into making this. Basically, a whole year of the channel's income went towards making this record. Um, But yeah, we put a lot into it. I really wanted to make sure that it was like a record that people who watch our channel could legitimately enjoy. And I think we succeeded. We're not counting it in our top 25, just a little too close to it to judge it properly. But I do believe fans of our channel will like this record. If you want to support the channel, we're just trying to blast through the last of our inventory. We're doing $10 plus shipping, a hard price to beat. And I know Freeze posed the question on his Instagram stories recently about should he take his music off of streaming? That's a question that's on a lot of artists' minds. So if you want to make sure you can always hear it, uh, you want to pick up a copy, I can say with near 100% certainty that it will never be pressed again. So this is your chance. The price is right, and it supports the channel and a great artist in Freeze. So check it out, tastelikerecords.com. And throughout the video, we may get some testimonials from folks in our Discord community about the record. But for now, let's get back to the video.
I can start out. We'll let you have the last word on the year, as it should be, I guess. My number 25 is an album that I don't think people would have ever predicted this band landing on my list. And I'm not gonna say that less than two more times. So a couple things that you would not expect did make it to my list this year, including number 25, The Scholars from Car Seat Headrest, which I know you enjoyed, but I believe I saw it on your like honorable mentions somewhere. So I was kind of hoping that would be one that we could get in together, but alas, no. Car Seat Headrest is a band I don't like much in the past. I mean, I've talked about them, I don't know, about on the channel, but in the Discord and on Twitter probably about just that lo-fi indie rock sound from the 2010s. Just one of my least favorite overall sounds of music. He's just got a voice that's kind of flat and blah blah blah, the usual stuff that I don't like. But on the Scholars, it seems like the band just found a way to become a little more approachable in the way they sound. I think the vocals are a lot better. The sound of the album is very interesting. A lot of really long songs, a lot of like 15 plus minute songs, 10-minute songs. Uh, Gethelsemaine, Gethelsemaine was the first song I heard from the album, and it has sort of like a prog spirit to it. It's long and winding. It still kind of has that like, mid 2010s loud indie rock guitars, but they're tempered in a way I think that makes them interesting. And the story, a little hard to follow across like the hour plus time of the album, but an interesting story, an interesting sound. It was, not as well received um, as something like Teens of, Denial or Twin Fantasy or anything, but I feel like people sort of, as soon as bands become extra talented and sort of cast off that indie rock sound, people turn on them. But to me, this is them turning towards a more interesting, fuller sound that I can get behind. So, well, yeah, the Scholars by Car Seat Headrest, we reviewed it on the channel if you want more insight on it. But it's just one of those turns away from sort of what people love about a band, but all the little idiosyncrasies that I didn't like, to maybe a more, straightforward sound as far as like rock goes, but one that I think just works better and sounds better and sort of that middle of the road thing that I like. So that's why it's on my list.
You can spit and beat your face against it, but it's unshaken. Nothing left to offer to restore what has been taken. Your body is a temple, but your holy wounds are aching. Leave the fat on.
Yeah, I like that one. 4.5 stars even for me, and number 37 on the year for my list. Okay, so my number 25. This video for me is going to be full of me pronouncing things poorly. My number 25 is Croc by Soyuz, which is a Belarusian band that plays MPB, Brazilian music. Yeah, they just go for that classic 70s MPB sound. I think they nail it. They've got, cosigns from some heavy hitters of the genre. Tim Bernardis is on there, one of my favorite musicians on the planet. His bandmate in Oterno is also on there, Bill Basile. And Anthony Ferraro from Toro y Moi is on a track. There's a Japanese percussionist, Mamani Kakudo. So they're just pulling from all over the place. It sounds great. It's beautiful, sophisticated, moody, maybe a little more like muted and melancholic than a lot of Brazilian stuff. So you have a little bit of that their own flavor creeping in as well. Jazzy, interesting arrangements, just well made, great sounding record.
That's an interesting start, I would say, from you. Although the presence of all those people, I think, does make it Jason Core, despite its sort of outside the usual boundaries. Um, so you can't escape Jason Core. Number 24 for me definitely one that escapes Joe Core. In fact, I got a lot of these. It's a band I've not heard of, and I listened to it and I didn't know about who produced it, but I may not have given it a fair shot if I had. It is You're Weird Now by Gorilla Toss, which is kind of this zany, Zolo, maybe like new wave kind of touching ADD hyper rock record that just kind of left me breathless with its just audacity and sort of just in your faceness. Singer Casey Carlson, she's almost like annoyingly bratty, but there's something compelling there, I think, with just the way she attacks the listener. It's impressive that the band as well. Just in your face guitar riffs, some like funky bass lines, some big like attacking drum fills in there. It's just, very quirky and idiosyncratic, and they enlisted the help of Stephen Malkmus, who obviously not a big fan of as producer. They recorded at Trey Anastasio of Fish's studio, and that is a pretty odd combination, but I think the oddness works for the band, and the songs, Opener Crystal Ball, you just get that blast of energy right away. And then, there's a couple tunes with Stephen Malkmus like doing these weird like vocal parts in there. It's quirky. It's like B-52 with Malkmus playing the Fred Schneider role a little bit. And overall, it's kind of like I really like some of it, and some of it kind of annoys me, but the really like part kind of wins out in the end, and all the quirkiness, which I feel like if they had a male singer, I wouldn't enjoy it because I don't like that kind of quirkiness from a male singer. But when they get the female singers, I think can get away with it a little bit more. And yeah, it's an interesting record. It was on Fantano's five favorite rock albums of 2025, and I don't know if I'd really call this a rock album, but you know, it's a good album.
You're so cool.
All right, yeah, I enjoyed that record too. 24 for me is What of Our Nature by Haley Hendrix and Max Garcia Conover. I really liked Haley Hendrix's first record, and then she came out with Seed of a Seed, and that one kind of just like came and went. It was fine enough, but didn't leave much of an impact. This one exceeds all expectation. I had never heard of Max Garcia Conover before. Apparently seems like he's been floating around for a while, but I think they're just like perfect complements and foils for one another. He brings like this really kind of like rebellious folk protest singer spirit to the record, kind of like a Dylan or a Woody Guthrie, and she kind of plays the role of like a Joan Baez, kind of making things, really pretty and digestible, but at the same time, her tunes feel no less urgent. I think it's a really gorgeous record, lovely string arrangements, kind of tugs at your heartstrings while they tackle these like really bigger, important issues. And yeah, it just feels like a record kind of made for the moment that we're in, but also feels timeless. And yeah, really surprised me. This one came out late in the year too. I don't know if this was late November, early December release. I forget exactly, but it made an impression quickly on me, enough to make the top 25.
I don't know these horses. I don't know what they want to be fed. I don't know these horses. I've been cowboy in Illinois and fried me up bacon, been drunk and obnoxious and passively racist. They lied to us, Captain. They're batshit, let's face it. They don't work for their money, they take it.
Sounds interesting. My number 23, I'm going with a metal band that dresses up in wild costumes. This year I'm switching up my allegiance. I'm giving up the ghost for Castle Rat and their album The Bestiary. They're a self-described metal fantasy heavy metal band led by the Rat Queen on a mission to expand and defend the realm from those who seek to destroy it. And if that sounds cheesy, you're right, it is, absolutely. But I think the music does a good job of staying grounded in like reality as much as you can be when you're singing about serpents and wizards and dragons and crystal caves and the like. But this medieval fantasy isn't like the fun medieval fantasy. It's like medieval fantasy with plague and open sores. That delivers that like grimy, hard metal, hard rock sound. Tons of riffage. The vocals are surprisingly understated. It's not like theatrical glam like Ghost is. It's sort of just like earthy female vocals that don't, jump up in the stratosphere or anything. It's not power metal. This is sort of, it's dirty. It's dirty metal. There are some sweet guitar solos, but nothing that, overstays their welcome. There's no Yngwie Malmsteen 4 minute fade out. And even the songs themselves are a lot shorter, 2, 3, 4 minutes. So this metal life is short, brutal, and then you die, and it's what I like here.
At least a couple of the variants of the vinyl of that record were pressed at my gerb. So yeah,
Nice.
cool to see. Cool to see it make a list. 23 for me, I have Magico Imagetico Circular by Walfredo and Busca de Symbiose, another Brazilian record. Well, I guess the first one wasn't Brazilian, it was Belarusian. But yeah, this one's like neo psychedelic dream pop, sonically rich and just warm sounding record. Lots of layers of guitars and synths take you to outer space. It's got a really spacey kind of atmosphere to it. There's some of that like 70s Brazilian music influence here, but I think, spoiler, I have a few more Brazilian records on the list. Compared to the other records from Brazil on my list, I think this is the most contemporary of them. You've got like indie and alternative elements here, as well as I said, some dream pop, some really strong melodies throughout. And I think it's just a really immersive record and just cool sounding. I like the atmosphere and the vibe.
Okay, pretty unexpected list from you, I think, so far. A lot of things I've never heard of ever. For me, we have another band, another album that would have been just impossible to imagine making my list, and that is Black Country New Road. I do have Forever How Long on my list, which, I mean, I feel like I should just take this time to just badmouth Isaac Wood, but I won't, even though his leaving the band has caused me to start liking them now, that they have some good singers. Three, in fact. You can't really tell them apart because they all kind of sound the same, but Georgia Ellery, um, Tyler Hyde, and May Kershaw are now the vocalists, three females. And the band itself, I don't know if they sound that much different, but without like that kind of woe is me, badly sung emo, vocal parts. They just have such a more interesting sound to me. James Ford does the production, and it almost comes with this like Jethro Tull sort of deep in the forest, Very much like Songs from the Wood, verdant green kind of feeling to the record, which is cool. There's plenty of like contemporary, Jethro Tull didn't sing about besties and, you know, socks, but he does, he would sing about two horses, which I think is a great song about murder and sort of this kind of long, um, progressive sounding, cool, interesting piece from Georgia Ellery. And the whole album is just this different sound, this different direction, I guess, for the band, and um, I just like it. I hated the sound of Black Country New Road when they first came out, for the first time, especially. And I didn't hate Ants from Up There, even if I didn't like Isaac Wood much. But now that the three female singers are in charge, I just I think it's a much better sound, much more interesting, and I'm glad to see them making my list to stick it to Isaac Wood, especially.
Oh, I can see my destination on the line. And if the stars are aligned, not gonna be next time. I trick him as he's sleeping. Can never trust a man who's drinking whiskey at the bar alone. But his arms around your waist and your hair is blowing wind, and it felt alright.
Yeah, I've had an unexpected list so far. I think I have some unexpected picks coming up, but this 22 is the most expected pick on my list. Maybe the most surprising thing about it is that it's not my album of the year. I have Double Infinity by Big Thief at 22. This is our first record without bassist Matt O'Learchick. As far as bass players go, I always felt like he was very elemental to the band's sound. I mean, sure, losing him isn't like losing Adrian or Buck Meek or something, but I was curious to see how the band would change without his presence. And it's hard to pinpoint like what about the changes can be attributed to his departure, because the album is so different from what they've done in the past. Like it does feel like we've entered into like a new era of Big Thief with this record. Feels more spiritual, more meditative, more communal. The songs feel like the band's least urgent, and I don't mean that as like a insult or anything. They take time to unravel and reveal themselves. Some of the like choruses almost feel like mantras, just like these repeating lines. And it doesn't mean that they're no longer capable of like stopping you dead in your tracks. Like I think there's so much beauty and like brilliant songwriting on this record. And in a lot of ways it's the same classic Big Thief that I've loved. But yeah, it's just a different take on their sound, I think. A lot of guests coming in and filling out the sound, and it just works. I think it's a really great record.
That one, a little controversial, I think, amongst the Big Thief literati out there. But I was gonna be interested to see if that one did make your list. I assumed. Number 21 for me, a rap album, the only one of the year. So this is the rap album of the year, and it's Magic Alive from McKinley Dixon. Dixon's he's a very fiery MC, and I find his storytelling interesting and compelling. And, just based on that alone, he would be one of my, more favorite rap artists, I guess, of the 2020s. But the production is what separates like the rap albums I appreciate and the rap albums I really like. And the production here is great, and that's why it is on my list ahead of any other rap albums like Clips or anything like that. This is very hectic, it's very dense. At one moment, it's rooted in like classic R&B and rock and roll and soul. The next, it's screeching horns and a very modern take on things. It can be just devastatingly pretty at times, and that helps balance out some of the more, abrasive sounds, the harsher rapping. FFOL, probably my standout track, really just channels the best of Curtis Mayfield. A really awesome guitar solo by Palehound in there. And the instrumentation in general is just it's big and full because it's real. It seems like at least most of it sounds real. And from the credits, there's a ton of players on the album. So I'm assuming most of it's real, no samples, all created in this kind of live style for the album. And I think that is important for me, who, doesn't. I mean, I like rap, I always have, but, sometimes that, uh, heavily produced sound, the samples, the repetition, you know, it doesn't always work for me. And the whole like everything has to be jazz rap also gets a little tiring. So I like the way they've approached this. I like everything about it. It pays respects to the classics, but forges its own way, and it just has that like little extra with all the unique instrumentation to separate it and put it above the rest.
Generational snapping, you know if I'm rapping, I'm using my grandfather's words when I write. The language best down from my head to my heart, to my wrist, to my fist, to my fingers ignite. Eyes open wide, you fantasize about how you catching such a wonderful sight. Sally, the nigga next to you, he catching the
my number 21 is Anamaru by May Simonis. New York City-based, jazz-influenced indie J-pop bossa nova artist. I think there's so many adjectives that you could use when talking about her. And I think the only way to really get it is to just hear it for yourself. Just a really unique vision of pop music and jazz music. A completely badass guitar player too. Just serious jazz chops, also some like progressive tendencies, and I think she also has like kind of an identifiable sound. Like it's kind of rare that guitarists come along these days that have such a unique style of playing of their own. Only 25 years old, just super exciting musician and artist, and I can't imagine where her career will take her, what kind of music she'll make. But I think for now, Anamaru is pretty mind blowing.
Okay, number 20. We're gonna get into the pop realm with this one. I got Addison Rae with Addison. The difference between Addison Rae and other pop starlets, and that's what we'll call, this type of music, and the people singing it, the people dabbling in this world of popdom, Tate McRae, even Taylor Swift now. The difference is that Addison Rae seems like she's in on the joke. She knows how ridiculous, it all seems. The ridiculous nature, the over-sexualized, just the way modern pop music is. She knows it's a joke, and sort of the way that Lana Del Rey kind of made fun of her own image. She's sort of just built this Potemkin village of pop music. It's all over simulation and over sexualization, and just she delivers it with this kind of droll, winking delivery. It kind of plays up the jailbaity fun of it all, and also lets people know that this is kind of a joke. A song like Diet Pepsi, it's just like such a spot on impersonation of a pop song. And it's so catchy, and yet, you don't have to like hate yourself for liking it because of the way that she is and the way that she understands pop music. The restraint is kind of what sets it apart. And she does that pretty much throughout the album, I think. There's touches of hyper pop and plenty of modern pop. And, she delivers everything a pop star needs to deliver, in that, kind of breathy, over sexualized way that she sings. But there's definitely a little bit more to it, a little bit more to her, that sets it apart. And, if you want something fun and poppy to listen to that won't give you like a ice cream headache or a sugar rush or give you cancer or something, Addison is the album you want to listen to.
Till we get caught, fog up the windows in the parking lot. Summer love, sexy, sitting on his lap, sipping Diet Pepsi. I write my name with lipstick on your chest. I leave a mark so you know.
All right, my number 20 is Lower by Benjamin Booker. Another hard to describe album. I think it's a little bit of a genre-defying experience, very textured sonically speaking. Some of the vocals are almost like ASMR in their whispery, raspy delivery. I think it's a really compelling and interesting record as far as the songwriting goes too, with titles like Slow Dance in a Gay Bar and Rebecca Latimer Felton Takes a BBC. The record tackles heavy issues, and it plays it with a straight face, but there's also this undercurrent of humor with some of the lyrics. And yeah, even though it's not necessarily a catchy record as far as hummability goes, there's something about it that keeps calling me back to it and making me want to listen to it more and more. Everything about it, from the vocals, and the beats and the lyrics, it's all a little off center. It's all a little bit weird, just to the right amount that it's makes it intriguing and compelling, and it kind of just becomes addictive, and you just want to listen to it over and over. Never really listened to Benjamin Booker before. This one surprised me.
Interesting. It's a couple in a row from you now that would make my bottom probably order. Not a big fan of Benjamin Booker or that album. That's all right. You probably don't like Addison Rae. So.
It's true. You didn't like the Mae Simone's record?
I did kind of like that one. I was referring to Big Thief,
Yeah.
which I thought was lousy.
Mm.
And I did have a bit of a coming to light moment with UFOF with Big Thief. So
Interesting.
yeah. So I don't know what that means, but Double Infinity, not my style. This next album, my number 19, definitely my style. It is Neal Francis, Return to Zero. And I'm just going to assume that Neal Francis is a big Boz Scaggs fan, because he makes music like Boz Scaggs, and that's a compliment, obviously. Not the strongest voice in the world, but musically, the combination of yacht rock and disco and white boy funk and 70s AM gold is right up my alley. It's very finessed, rich. Love the synth sounds, the string work. It's an interesting album because the first three songs have these strong female backing vocals from Say She, and then it kind of becomes a bit of a different record. The melodies seem to get stronger, a little less groove, a little more like songwriting style as it goes on. Once it gets to What's Left of Me, which can't get much more yacht rock sounding than that, it becomes a little more personal, a little more interesting with the melodies, and it just kind of accelerates from there into just a great throwback, retro sounding yacht rock record for 2025.
Love in this rain.
still the one who's spending what it costs to be free. Want to love needs more loving.
I did listen to that and I liked it, but yeah, I feel like if he had a great voice, it would be much better. His voice is kind of like nondescript.
Yes, I will agree with that. It did grow on me. It took me a little while because it starts out just the way the album is structured. I don't know. It just feels like it doesn't really get going until after the three Say She songs.
Number 19 for me is Mill on the Hill by Melon Melon. They are a Welsh band taking a lot of cues from their countrymen, Super Furry Animals and Griff Rhys. Uh, Coincidentally, or maybe on purpose, one of the band members' first name is Griff and one of their last names is Rhys. And they sound a lot. If you like Super Furry Animals, you'll like this record. Definitely something you'll want to check out. But yeah, this record is really off the wall. It's a lot of fun, kind of a psychedelic concept album about a magical mill where songs are made. And yeah, the mill is under threat of being turned into a car park. It's just a fun, colorful ride, jumping between psych rock and country and rock and art rock and surf and all kinds of weirdness ensues. Yeah, just one you got to hear.
Just tempts you to get up and fall. You got this, you got this, you got this, you got this, you know. You got this, you got this, you got this, you got this, you know.
All right, my number 18 begs the question, what if the best R&B artist of the 2010s made an album and nobody cared? And that seems to be what happened with Miguel, who is the best R&B artist of the 2010s, easily, hands down. Two Laps of the Weekend or Frank Ocean, for sure. But it's been a long time. It's 2017 and Leisure was his last appearance, really. He had a song on the Coco soundtrack, which is great. But kind of out of the game for a long time. And then he drops Chaos with almost no build up, with just like out of the blue, basically. I didn't even know it was coming. And I've been waiting 8 goddamn years for this. And then I think it had like 4 reviews on Metacritic. Like people just either didn't hear about it or just ignored it or something. So I don't know what happened there. I guess it's a pretty sad statement on the state of the music industry, but um, I think it's just because it's not this like giant change in direction or massive statement album. It's 36 minutes long, 12 songs, just kind of, exists without needing to draw too much attention to itself. He's not really doing anything that he hasn't done, in the past. It sounds like a Miguel album. It's, slightly sexy. It's rooted in neo soul and Prince and late 60s psychedelic pop and, you know, 70s, early 70s rock, funkadelic, all that stuff. Thematically, there's nothing that really binds it together like Wild Heart did. It's not quite as catchy as Kaleidoscope Dream, but I think Miguel still sounds great. Drums and bass are always a treat on his records. They all just sound so big and live, and this album is no exception. R.I.P. and the R.I.P. and New Martyrs, probably the two most classic Miguel sounding tunes and my two favorite on the album. And I don't know. I mean, I was a little disappointed when I heard it because after 8 years, I was expecting like some like giant like production, a triple album, something to be just like Miguel's back. But I listened to it a couple more times and I just think it's a good album. I mean, it's not his best. It's only 18th favorite of the year. It's a little low for Miguel, but um, I don't know. It's just a good album. I'm glad he's back. He's a needed voice, and you know, he'll get him next time with like a quadruple album or something crazy.
My number 18 is Saya by Saya Gray. It is a pop record, but I think just barely. The degree of originality and artiness, I think, almost disqualify it from being pop. But she comes from the pop world, at least kind of. She started as this incredible bass player, like prodigy bass player, just ripping like Kirk Franklin gospel bass, just monster player, and then ended up, kind of becoming a bass player to the stars and like doing these big pop tours before starting her own career and writing her own music. I would say a big trend for my own listening this year was like a lot of stuff that was like sounded like a band in a room or was like a little lo-fi or underproduced. This is the furthest from that on my whole top 25 list. This is very very produced and there's a lot going on and it's very polished, but I think the songwriting is really great. I think there's a lot of really creative decisions happening, and I think pretty much all of those decisions like really serve the songs and make sense and don't feel forced. And so yeah, I think it's just really well done. It's engineered to perfection. It sounds so awesome. Yeah, Saya Gray.
Number 17, this is back to back, like the most Joe-core of the entire list, probably. I got a favorite, an old favorite, a former winner, BC Camplight with A Sober Conversation. A little low for a BC Camplight record, kind of just like Miguel was a little low with his record, but it's fine. Nobody can be perfect all the time. And I think mainly it's the subject matter. I think that takes this one down a little bit because it is a hard listen. It's Brian's look at some of the abuse he suffered as a child at camp, and sort of how he came to grips with it later on in his life. And yeah, it's a really dark record. Musically, it's still pretty catchy and bright. Very piano forward, and that juxtaposition has always been kind of what has drawn me to him. He sings a lot about just really dark things, either like a really bad, messy relationship that fell apart, or the death of his father, his deportation from the UK. Like, this guy handles heavy subjects with aplomb and usually with sort of a brightness and a nice self-deprecating sense of humor. This one skews maybe a little too far from that. He still brings, some humor into it, and it is a funny record at times, but man, it's a hard listen, and it wasn't one that I really was like looking forward to coming back to. So I did, and I liked it a little bit more, I think, even than the first time after we covered it on the channel, but it's not my favorite of his records, but I don't think it's for lack of talent or effort or anything like that. It's just subject matter is a little outside of even what I want to hear from Brian Cristiano.
Take a little drive if you got something to hide. Now's the time to show me. And as we pulled into the pines, I cried and he said, "Let it all out." I said, "Okay, don't tell anyone. I don't care for David Bowie." joking, he said. I'm really not, I replied. Some words are better under your breath, so under that the words are only...
Number 17 for me is a record that I made an Instagram video about earlier in the year. I've got Can't Lose My Soul by Annie and the Caldwells, a soul gospel R&B record on David Byrne's Luwaka Bop record label. I mean, if you're looking for powerhouse vocals, this is the record this year. For me, just like the most soulful singing of the year. The grooves are deep and infectious. The musicianship is great. And for a record that has so much emphasis on the vocal prowess, there is some incredible guitar work as well. The production's great. It puts the focus in all the right places. Everything feels live and spontaneous. And for a gospel record, like it pulls, I think it's kind of welcoming to, you know, like a more secular audience. It pulls in like an interpolation of You Dropped a Bomb on Me on a track. So it's pretty fun. It's pretty upbeat and yeah, just powerhouse singing.
I had to cry sometimes. I made it. I said I dropped the bomb on me. You dropped the bomb on me. Yeah. You dropped the bomb on me.
All right, if I told you that there was a record even more surprising from a band even more surprising than Black Country New Road or Car Seat Headrest, who would you think it would be? Any guesses? It's not Geese. Screw those guys.
Who are the other indie darlings that put out records this year? Wet Leg? I wouldn't be that surprised if you had Wet Leg on your list.
No, more surprising than Wet Leg. Although I don't know if I've mentioned much that I dislike them, but their 2023 album, I gave 2.5 stars, and it was 194 out of 210 for the year. And I wasn't even going to listen to this album because why would I listen to an album from a band that I know I'm going to hate? But then I did. And surprising. I got It's a Beautiful Place by Water From Your Eyes.
Wow.
Yeah, and I don't know if did you listen to this record?
I did not know.
It surprised the hell out of me. And I don't even know if I would have known this was the same band. Like this, their last album was just like everything I didn't like about like modern music. Much in the same way Black Country New Road used to be, but like they didn't lose anybody or change anything up. They just totally did a different style and a different, direction for this album. And it is like a phenomenal guitar album. And that's not what I expected. Like I read that in a review and I was like, get the hell out of here. Like these guys know how to play guitar. Like I don't remember much of anything from Crushed back in 2023, but there's just like all these unexpected moments. It's very like stop, start, lurchy. Rachel Brown, the singer, sings in this like very flat, kind of like lo-fi, slacker rock kind of way. But there are just some ridiculously cool guitar parts on this, and every song sounds like it's like taking from a completely different like style of playing. It's like super complex, but super memorable, like noisy at times. Just kind of crazy that they did this and managed to pull it off in a way that like makes me like them.
Number 16 for me is Echo in the Dust by Juliana Riolino. Classic Jason core pick. Her debut record made my top 10 in 2022, I think that came out. Yeah, touches of country and Americana, but make no mistake, this record is a rock and roll ripper. Just so self-assured, confident, fiery, passionate vocals. For anyone that doesn't know, Juliana was formerly a member of Daniel Romano's Outfit, and now she's fully solo. And yeah, this record's got just great songs, a really diverse collection with detours into some 80s synth textures here and there, some country, some rockabilly. I think, anyone who's a fan of like Lucinda Williams or fans of Stevie Nicks, I think we'll get into this one. Just good stuff.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one a lot. That was just outside my top 25. I think it's the first 4-star album that I've found on your list so far, but long way to go.
On the Banks of Disappearing is one of my favorite albums of the many I have heard this year. This is an album full of great songs and a rare album that just gets better as it goes along. I love the first side, but the second side is a stunner, closing with my favorite song, The Last Time You Saw Me. When Freeze sings the album title in the first line of the song, it's such a satisfying moment that it feels like the build-up to something big to close out the record. The whole album flows really seamlessly, and the great musicians on this record really help Freeze's songwriting to shine. And those musicians are actually, many of them are in the band Future Crib, who also had a great album this year that you should check out as a aside. But while this album is awesome, no matter where you hear it, it truly sounds the best on vinyl. You can really hear the richness and textures of the songs on your turntable. I've heard it both ways, of course, and the difference is audible. Not always can you say that, but I really hear a difference with this record. So everyone involved did an amazing job to make this album an experience, and you should also experience it for yourself.
Number 15 for me is a album from a band that just doesn't know how to do anything other than put out 4-star albums. That's Deftones with Private Music. They just don't really miss for me. I had a big Deftones phase on this channel. I was going to do a ranking of them. I didn't do it, but I might someday still. To me, Deftones, they haven't changed their style much in the past 20 years or so, but it seems like they can still be pretty fresh sounding with each album, even without really diversifying at all. Maybe it's just that they wait 4 or 5 years, so they kind of be like, we need some Deftones in our life. Oh, boom, here it comes. Sounds just like we wanted it to. I don't think it's as good as Alms, which made my top 5 in 2020, I believe. But you still get the furious vocals from Chino Moreno. You still get the thumping bass from Fred Sabian now. Sablin from Fred Sablin, who joined the band. Stephen Carpenter's riffs, still dynamite. The drums are awesome. Abe Cunningham's a monster. And yeah, just 11 brutally strong, powerful songs that kick ass and remind you why you like the Deftones.
Number 15, I have Pequena Vertigem del Mor by Cessa or Cessa, I'm not sure. Another Brazilian album. This one a bit on the folkier end of the spectrum and definitely hitting on all the vintage sounds. just a really warm and welcoming record. It really reminds me a lot of that Georges Ben-Georges record that we did for Album of the Week. Impeccably arranged, really subtle but brilliant musicianship all across the record. Every track has its own kind of world of sound that it lives in. You've got flutes, strings, an army of backing vocalists on this record, and just some of the most perfectly dialed in reverb that you can imagine. Yeah, it's just a really great sounding record.
No meu coração, primeira luz rompe a escuridão. Vale a pena viver, vale a pena. Estou com vocês. Vale a pena viver, vale a pena. Minha galera.
Okay, my number 14. I'm going to go with Essex Honey from Blood Orange, which I think is just a fantastic, progressive sounding, R&B album. Very stylized, very, auteuristic. Blood Orange, aka Dev Hynes, or I guess Dev Hynes, aka Blood Orange. His first album since 2018. Here he looks back at his childhood and growing up in Essex and how that childhood helped shape his music and vice versa. Loaded with some cool guest spots. Carolyn Polachek is on more than a couple songs here, and Lord stops by. The Deruti column is here. A couple other people, and all of that works well. I think Deb does a great job of just establishing this kind of dreamy, pretty psychedelic kind of R&B sound. A lot of sparse drums, a lot of fading synths. You got some cool ghostly vocal arrangements between Dev and his contributors. There's a cool Replacements homage called Westerberg. Little like Tame Impala psychedelia, Mind Loaded. King's Cross gets into jazz a little bit. Get hints of like sophistopop, prefab sprout style. And it's just, one of those interesting, complex, unique visions. And I just think it's a cool sound.
But it's easier to breathe when the tall floats down your stream, and you squint to see the truth that there's no longer your youth.
I quite enjoyed that album as well. All right, my number 14. I talked about liking this record in the Discord, and everyone was like, oh, wow, that's crazy that Jason likes that. And then even after sharing the rest of my top 100 with the Discord, I think people are probably assuming that it's on the other side of 100 and not up at 14. But I really did like this album a lot. It's Cover Girl by Lady Ray, a record by Nicole Ray, who is like an R&B star. I don't know if star is the right word. She had one top 5 Billboard hit, though. She toured with Missy Elliott, and she was one of Missy Elliott's background singers. Not a genre that I am drawn to all that often, but I think this record is done to absolute perfection. This kind of like retro gospel soul sound with sprinklings of like 90s R&B and also a few more modern touches. I think the songwriting is really good. I think the vocal performances are just strong and passionate. You've got these kind of like Tonto-esque synth sounds in a few places on the record. You've got a little funk, a little disco here and there. Really well produced by Leon Michaels of L. Michaels Affair. And I just think it's pretty much the perfect R&B record for me. It's if you want to make a record, an R&B record that I'm gonna like, you make this one.
Lord knows I'm here. Lord's holding my hand, leading me through the troubled land. Sun is going down on me. The sun is going down. There is a peace I cannot see. There is a calm all over me.
Gotta be the gospel, I feel like, influence on it. Like I'm extremely surprised to see it on your list. It was like one of the last ones I took off my top 25.
Oh, nice.
And it was way up there too for a while. And then I listened to it, I was like, okay, it's not quite as good as I thought. But it's still pretty close to the top 25. I'll have to listen to it again in case I overreacted and dropped it too much. So
It kept moving up on my re-listens. I'd be like, am I really putting this at 14? But yeah, it's really good.
okay, all right. Well, a lot of surprises this year from both sides here. Number 13 is a familiar name and is Suede, and I have their album Antidepressants on my list here at number 13. And I just think this is a good Suede album, much like all Suede albums since basically the turn of the millennium. This one, more guitar forward, I think, for them than really anything, I don't know, since Dogman Star back in like 94. Just a ton of great riffs, a ton of great guitar parts. Brett Anderson sounds as annoyed and angry by modernity as ever. And the hooks are pretty familiar in places. But I always like his lyrics, biting and venomous, kind of just sort of snooty Britishness, which I like. And the guitar really backs it up on tunes like Sweet Kid and the title cut. You get that patented Brett Anderson falsetto, which I think you've been missing on Between an Atom and a Star. I like that. It's a very Britpop leaning tune, and overall, I think this is probably their most Britpop sounding album since they invented the genre back in the 90s. So you get that big, anthemic sound to everything, which some people don't like, but I love it. So yeah, another very fine outing for Suede.
Number 13 for me is friends of the channel, Future Crib, with their album Impossible Songs. I actually heard this record last year. They sent me a copy before it was out. But yeah, it's just really good songwriting, great performances, recorded to tape. They produced it themselves. Not only recorded to tape, but I think an entirely analog process through the mastering all the way to the vinyl. It sounds great. The songs are really good. Kind of sneaky catchy. This is a record that grew on me more and more throughout the year. I think when I first heard it, I knew it was good, but yeah, the more spins I gave it, the more that I realized how kind of intricately arranged and performed they are, and how much kind of care was put into the craft of the songs. And yeah, I just think it's really, really strong. People should check it out for sure.
I can hear you singing, 'cause no one's off the grid. I know you've got a secret, but you're keeping it.
My number 12 is from a band, harkens back to the 90s, and I guess I'd never heard them before. I don't even think I've heard their name mentioned before, but I have Cardiacs with LSD, which it came out this year. It was actually started all the way back in 2007. Frontman Tim Smith then suffered a stroke, cardiac arrest, and he was in a state of dystonia, unable to sing, couldn't play an instrument. Over the next 12 years, the lyrics and the compositions were done by Tim's family and friends communicating with him via the position of his eyes and his left hand using an alphabet board. So 12 years it took, plus more, to make this album. For those 12 years, they worked on the album. He died in 2020, and then for the next 5 years, 21, 22, 23, 24, I think it's 25, 4 or 5 years, his brother Jim finished the album with a bunch of his friends and family and everything. And it's just such an interesting sound to me. I did not go back and listen to previous Cardiacs songs or albums, so I have to go do that. But what they've done here, they've almost like mimicked apparently Tim Smith's vocals. There's a lot of like group vocals, almost like, barbershop quartet style, where there's just all these voices that come in. Sounds very unique, very much unlike anything I've heard. The songs themselves, a lot of just like really catchy, very British sounding tunes, some progressive nature, some windy passages, some interesting instruments that you don't always hear, in modern whatever rock music. And it's just, I don't know, I just found it very interesting and unlike anything I had heard, but also catchy enough and, compelling enough to keep my interest throughout its 80 minutes. It's a long album, runtime. So it's sort of the swan song of the band and of everyone involved, but I think it's a very worthwhile listen and a cool album.
He's all up and down in the dry ground. He's all one thing that you can't wake up out of it. All wake up into it, Daddy. He just whatever can never be. All built back together as anything else can be. Built right back together by a same.
That is a crazy story. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. My number 12 is Veranda dos Palpiches by Joaquim, the final Brazilian album on my top 25. The problem with choosing all these Brazilian records, it's like when you don't know what the lyrics are saying, it becomes hard to talk about, aside from just describing the sound of it. Comparatively to the other records from Brazil that I've chosen on my list, this one I would say is the least vibey. I think it is like the least about the arrangements and the sounds and more about the songs and the song construction, and definitely more centered on the voice. Like the voice is, I think, mixed way louder on this record than some of these other Brazilian records, and it's much more, it's less psychedelic and more like this grand soaring, like these big ballads, that kind of like swelling, almost like cinematic type tunes. But yeah, just incredible voice and these big arrangements that are really going for it.
Vento entrando faz circular. Não é meu pranto, pai. Era grito do filme que eu pus pra ver. Dorme o resto da casa e eu nessa desgraça, plenamente acordado, meio imobilizado por tudo que eu não vou ser. Vou acordar passando mal. Vou te dar tchau passando e você não
Well, I did not expect that much Brazilian music on the list.
Neither did I.
Okay, well, interesting. My number 11, just outside the top 10 here, comes another pop album. I got Doja Cat, Vi, just missing the top 10. She's back from her diversion into harder rap of the very bad, very rightly disliked, and pilloried Scarlet from 2023. Back in the world of pop rap, where she, I'm not going to say belongs, but she thrives here. And Vi is good enough not to not only rehab her in my eyes, but also even more unbelievably, the producer of record, Jack Antonoff, which I have not had a nice thing to say about him since 2019, probably, with NFR. And yet here he is back in his bag, and that is 80s pop music. And that is what he really should only be doing, because that is just what he does best. This record just consolidates the strengths, I think, of both. Doja Cat with the sexy, sly, funny vocal work that flits effortlessly between the singing and the rapping, and then Antonoff with those big synths, the big beats, the touches of reverb, just to make sure everybody knows what decade it is. That 80s style, late 80s, I would say here, almost into like New Jack Swing territory, where it's just like right on the edge of becoming a little more urban, a little more dancey. Um, but the grooves here are great. I loved Jealous Type. I thought it was a monster single that somehow didn't make that much noise on the Billboard Hot 100. But I loved it, and a lot of this album's kind of positioned in the same way. And I think it just works for both of them. It's just a really fun, really good 80s, early 90s dance R&B pop album.
This is clear to say. Could be torn between two worlds that I just can't decide. Which one is leading me to heaven paradise? Baby, I can't hurt you, sure, but I'm the jealous type. I'm the jealous type. He loves me, but he can't hold this above me. When my eyes are green, I'm numb. You're vain and hip to
My number 11, this is the one that I thought there might be a chance that we line up on. I don't think it'll be in your top 10, though. I think if you would have it, it would already have appeared. We'll see. I know you at least liked it. I've got Clams Casino by Brian Dunn at number 11. I had kind of a roller coaster relationship with Brian Dunn this year. So I had never heard of him, but his like super group that he has with a couple other singer-songwriter guys was playing at the WIP free concert here in Pittsburgh, and I went, and I did not like it. I did not think Fantastic Cat was fantastic. I don't know. It seemed a little cheesy, kind of corny. Then about I don't know, it was soon after, maybe a couple weeks later, this record came out, and I was like, I kind of like this. I actually am surprised. I think it's pretty darn good. And then maybe a month after that, I saw him live, and I thought it was great. His live performance really sold me, and then after that, I listened to the record more, and it just grew and grew on me. And now I think, it's the 11th best record of the year. I think the songwriting is so strong, and it's not a record reinventing the wheel or anything. It's very much indebted to Springsteen, especially. He's admittedly a huge Springsteen fan. I hear, Steve Forbert and other, singer-songwriters of that ilk as well. The writing is just so, like, on the money. I think just really good, well-written songs. I think the language that he uses, just like the way it rolls through the melody and like his word choice and the way it sounds being sung is so good. And yeah, I think what he's singing about is also, kind of interesting. This kind of like he's singing a lot about like being an unknown singer-songwriter and like chasing your dream when it's like impossible to make a living. And, there's songs about like watching friends of his give up on the dream. And, Clams Casino, as he described it at the show I saw, was really about just like growing up thinking Clams Casino is a fancy dish and like just wanting to have Clams Casino on a Sunday and that being like kind of like a dream. And then, the chorus is like, why is it so hard to have a good life? So yeah, I just think he's writing really strong songs. He might not be the most inventive in terms of production and like things like that, but yeah, just really tuneful, really catchy, and I think kind of just writing songs that need to be written right now.
I'm just trying to have a good life. Clams Casino on a Sunday night. In bed in the house on a bottle of wine. But I'm just trying to have a good time. Is it so bad to want a good thing? Don't even let it get you looking. Don't let them see you get your foot in. Is it so bad?
Well, we'll see. We shall see.
Happy holidays for me. That is Joe Opinionated here on the channel. And I want to shout out to Nordista Freeze this year for having one of my top 25 albums and top 25 songs with Station Vacation. And shout out to Freeze as well for turning me into a bigger fan of Daft Punk.
Number 10, I'm going to go with Billboard Heart from Deep Sea Diver, which just some good old-fashioned alternative rock from Seattle. Band Deep Sea Diver, led by Jessica Dobson, kicks off, puts you right on the edge of your seat with a nice kind of abrasive 90s alternative, maybe a little Riot Girl, a little dreamy stuff in there as well. You get some fast propulsive tempos, you get close to the edge vocals, a symphony of big overdriven guitars. But it's buoyed, I think, by these memorable melodic choruses, especially on the opener, What Do I Know, An Emergency. For me, the harder driving it is, the better. And they really just kind of kick you in the face coming out of the gate there with the first three. Then they had some other interesting wrinkles as well, though. Track 4, Shovel, get some like sexy synths, little dancier indie pop chorus on there. They do a little softer singer-songwriter stuff with Tiny Threads. I think the second half of the album fades a little bit. I think the sense of adventure that they show off on the first half of the album, I'll say, is really interesting, kind of zigging and zagging to these different genres. And then it kind of settles in, becomes a little steadfast, comfortable. But good stuff throughout. It's not like it falls off a cliff. It's just really, really kicks you in the face on the first couple tracks, where I was like, "Whoa, this could be a top 5 record." But it'll have to settle for top 10 because the album is best when Dobson is zigging and zagging and making sweet unhinged guitar noise like she does on the first couple tracks.
What do I know? What do I know? What do I know? What do I know? It's getting into my soul. Oh, the spider in the milkshake.
Cool. Yeah, I like that record as well. Number 10, I've got a record that was at my number 1 spot or near my number 1 spot for a large chunk of the year. It fell a little bit in the final kind of like re-listening phase, but still I think really strong. I've got Songs to Sing and Dance to by Tom Henry. Just really super catchy power pop type stuff, slightly lo-fi recording sound, produced by Kai Slater. Sharp Pins, Lifeguard had a big year. Kind of the it guy as far as power pop and and this kind of rock music goes. And mixed and mastered by Johnny Bell, who worked on the Young Gov records that I enjoyed a couple years ago. And yeah, just this is super Jason Core to the extreme, really influenced by like Big Star, and I hear a ton of Emmett Rhodes in his voice. If you like that kind of stuff, you should definitely check this out. Great songwriting, some of the most memorable tunes of the year, and for me, kind of a little bit filling the void of the Lemon Twigs, where the last couple records of the Lemon Twigs felt like a little too clean, a little too predictable. Like I kind of like, okay, they're gonna write these songs that sound like they're from the '60s, and it's gonna be absolutely perfect. Which there's a place for that, but this is a little less perfect. It's a little more ramshackle, a little more sloppily recorded in a great way. But yeah, Tom Henry songs to sing and dance to.
I look through your eyes, my morning sky. Better you're mine. The radiant blues, you're taming the shrew, and everything's alright. And everything's just fine. Everything's alright.
Sounds interesting. That was one that when I saw Vanessa's list, I was like, some of these are obviously on Jason's list. Which ones? I tried to listen to all of them, but I didn't get to that one. My number 9, the pop album of the year. That's Showbiz Baby by Jade is going to be the pop album of the year. Lady Gaga, Eat Your Heart Out, because this is the album Lady Gaga should have made in the year of our Lord 2025. This is Lady Gaga getting out-gaga'd by Jade, who was part of Simon Cowell's extremely successful, not in America though, girl group. I believe Little Mix was what they're called. This is her first solo album, and I think it kind of shows that she should be taken very seriously as a major player in the pop genre. All these songs were big over in the UK, but I did not hear anything from her on the radio, so I guess again it doesn't translate overseas. But to me, it's so good. Opener, Angel of My Dreams, pop song of the year, just a monstrous vocal hook, dissolving into this sort of bad romance Euro pop grind that is everything that Mayhem should have been, but was not. It Girl follows up another dark dance floor banger. Fantasy has this great air raid synth to it, into the springy disco floor filler. It's dirty, flirty fun. There are a couple duds here, which you'll get on pretty much any pop starlet's debut record. Maybe she'll get a little more control after this. FUFN and Stop the Name of Love sampling Before You Break My Heart are kind of generic pop as it gets. But overall, it's pretty few and far in between. And mostly it's just pop and dance majesty being pumped out there by the gallon on that Showbiz Baby.
Bring all of the free nations alive. The passion, hey, passion, no shame. If you like it weird, I like it strange. It's nothing to see.
Number 9 for me is Burn Over by Greg Freeman. I don't know if Joe listened to this, but it's the least Joe Core album on my list. Slacker rock, vocal comparisons to Stephen Malkmus and Doug Marsh. I don't know, but like so many slackers before Greg Freeman, I don't think the term does justice to the effort that's clearly being put in and the intensity of the music. I think it's one of the best lyrical albums of the year, with such amazing verses as cruciform fossils lay excavated on your memory like plaster-casted lovers who kiss became the only thing that ever really mattered to a Vesuvian world. If you can make a Kiss reference that poetic, I'm all in. You've got guests like Lily Seabird on here, Merce Lemon, who I believe is his significant other, and yeah, uh, a feature of the band in Cam Gilmore on the saxophone. Just a lot of like ripping sax, and like when there's not ripping sax, there's like this heavy baritone sax like underneath, just thickening everything up. It sounds awesome. And yeah, just really cool record if you like Pavement or Built to Spill. This one's a no-brainer for fans of that kind of stuff.
And cruciform fossils lay excavated on your memory, like plaster cast to lovers whose kiss became the only thing that ever really mattered to a Vesuvian world. My thoughts die out slowly on the blood sweat.
All right, thanks for warning me about that one. I will not attempt. Although that was a great line, so it almost makes me want to listen to it just to see like what musical component is behind that, and how the delivery is. Does he deliver it in a slackery way, or is it
Oh, his vocals are very slacker.
very slackery? It's always a tough cross for me to bear. My number 8 is very much anti-Jason core, so go tit for tat on this. I got Luminescent Creatures from Ichiko Aoba, and this is Japanese. Sounds kind of sounds like you're in a role-playing game from Japan. Nice Final Fantasy, Chrono Trigger, something of that ilk. Very much JRPG style. It's dreamy, fantastical, fairy tale music, storybook, fantasy world stuff. Her vocals just light as gossamer. Musical accompaniments are all complex, arpeggiated piano melodies and flutes and strings and chimes, and just a very transformative type of music. It just kind of whisks you away into a whole nother universe, a whole nother dimension. And I think that's just very nice, very much needed for me this year. The opener coloratura basically just brings in all the stuff I just said, sets the mood. You have Tower, which has some nice soft jazz in it. Luciferine has a really gorgeous chord progression. Reminds me a little bit of Radiohead's Pyramid Song. Sonar is a leisurely marlin ride through, underwater caverns. And it closes with a song I can't pronounce the title of, but it's a lovely little guitar number. And just a wonderful, tranquil, peaceful journey through a different world. And I think that's just very nice and very refreshing. And the fact that it's in Japanese does not spoil any of the aura. If it was in English or something like that, like it would be really hard to pull this off and make it appeal to someone like me. But the fact that it is in another language just kind of heightens this sort of alien separation of worlds, which I find very, very nice.
Number 8 for me is the most obscure artist on my top 25. I have Embrace the Ache by Eleanor on Earth, who, as of my note taking for this top 25, had 77 monthly listeners on Spotify. I came across this record just like every Friday, like I used to do, digging through Album of the Year, the website, and just looking at everything that came out. And this record kind of blew me away. It's kind of lo-fi and like homemade sounding, but the harmonic and melodic sensibilities of this record are so strong. Vocally reminds me of like early of Montreal, like Cherry Peel era. and just such good melodies. And I think the way it's produced and the constraints under which it was made, and like the technology accessible to its maker, uh, it just came out sounding so creative and unique. And there's a ton of like really short songs on this record. A lot of them are like under 2 minutes. Some of them are under 1 minute, and it makes great use of that time. Just beautiful melodies and extremely memorable songwriting. I can't recommend it enough. Should have way more than 77 listeners.
Get them up triple digits, baby. Come
At,
on.
at one point during the year, they had 158, and I thought they were about to blow up, but they're back down to 77.
Well, we'll see if they'll get the patented TLM bump.
Hope so.
Hands down, and I'll give you what you want. Let me breathe it when I'm giving everything. Keep me around for the day and the sun. What a day to be rained on with you.
All right. Number 7, I'm going to go with the band. Seems to have fallen out of favor with the hipsters, but I think I like it even more than their last very much heralded album, and that is Turnstile with Never Enough. And I'm probably one of like 6 people who prefer Never Enough to Glow On, which I also like, and I like more now than I did. I heard it in 2021, and I was like, yeah, this is fine, but I don't know, I don't quite get it. But now I think I get it more, and I think Never Enough does enough to differentiate itself between it and Glow On, and make it a little more appealing to someone like me who's not really into the hardcore scene in general. But I think here on Never Enough, you get the hardcore styled vocals, you get the high octane riffage, but you also get some new sounds, some new stuff coming in. You got like the Sting like new wave vocals on I Care and Seeing Stars. You got a little like jangly, almost Smiths like guitar stuff going on. Um, it's just enough of the melodic elements, some horns in there as well to balance out that hardcore attitude and playing. And you still get that stuff. Like it's not like it goes away. Some really great, just powerful riffs all over the place. But then you get like these Wave Race 64 synth textures on interludes like Ceiling. And I think it just does enough to, expand the sonic palette of the genre, to move things along a little bit. You wouldn't want to just redo Glow On. And I think Never Enough does enough to expand upon it and make it a little different, make it a little more appealing to people like me, and hopefully continues their ascent into rock superstardom.
Number 7 for me is Patience Moonbeam by Great Grandpa. I did not know this band before this record came out. Apparently, they almost broke up prior to it. They had like moved into different directions and in their lives, and were like living in different cities and things. And thankfully, they didn't break up, because this record, I think, is really fantastic. It's, I don't know, they kind of, I suppose, could exist in this like post Wednesday world of like country indie. They do have like pedal steel on the record, and so I suppose they could use that to their advantage to, draw some eyes and ears towards them. But I don't think they fit neatly into that. This record reminds me a lot of like late 2000s, early 2010s indie. It's unique though, and they're pulling from. It's like hard to just like throw a band name out that they sound like, because I don't think they really do. The songs I think are just fantastic, really melodic, really emotional and heartfelt. And I think at every turn, the tunes are going in unexpected directions and kind of keep you guessing melodically. Just when you think you've like heard the hook, a better hook comes in and hits you. And yeah, just a really great record. If you like, late 2000s indie music, kind of maybe like a little bit more on the twee side, I think this is a record worth checking out.
Closer when I see you down. It's closer when I see you down. It's closer when I see you down. Help me make him give your hand. Don't need nothing but this.
All right, so you're gonna have to bust out the meme, Jason, because we did it. Number 6, Clams Casino, Brian Dunn,
Oh yeah.
the largest riser of any album this year for me. I liked it when I heard it for the first time, and then I heard Rockland County on the radio, and I didn't immediately recognize that it was Brian Dunn. I was like, I've heard this before. Who is this? And it was on WYEP. And I forget if I had to like Shazam it or if they said it at the end, but he said Clams Casino, Brian Dunn, or Brian Dunn from the album Clams Casino, Rockland County. I was like, good Lord, that song is incredible. I need to re-listen to that album. And I did, and I just kept listening to it, and it just kept rising and rising and rising all the way up. And that might be my song of the year. We'll see. I haven't totally decided yet, but it is just one of many excellent tunes on here. Dunn, he's somewhere between like Springsteen, but also, there's hints of like Adam Schlesinger in there, maybe a little Petty. I get some Billy Joel from it as well. Just, the finest purveyors of American pop rock and heartland rock. And I think Dunn just mines those same rich veins of nostalgia and the constant tug of war between, the comfortable life down home and sort of like breaking out and, leaving and finding something greater in life. And, that tug of war is what informs these excellent, really well written songs. Rockin' County is just so good. The conflict in it, is it ironic? Is it nostalgic? Is it both? Is it neither? It's just such a sharp tune. I love Graveyard. Kind of lands somewhere between Landslide and Summer Highland Falls. You got Play the Hits, which has some great slide guitar on it. Reminds me a little bit of like George Harrison, Tom Petty, kind of that Jeff Lynne 80s era. Dunn's voice is interesting. It doesn't really have any like South in it. It doesn't have like a Southern drawl or anything. But the instrumentation definitely feels like it's like south of the Mason-Dixon line. Fake Version of the Real Thing has some great Mark Knopfler like guitar playing. I got a little bit of like Making Movies in this album as well. And then you also get some like really bluegrass inspired stuff. Like I Watched the Light, which is really kind of sad and lovely. The playing on it is fantastic. I just love that sound in general. And I had not heard of him before, and I went back and listened to a couple older songs and some really cool stuff on his last album, but this one just has this like real unified sound, I think, that really helps the overall flow, and just the perfect mix of just like that heartland rock and sort of a little countrified bluegrass and some of that power pop as well in there. And yeah, I'm really interested to see what he does next. And yeah, just a really great, unique voice, I think.
Jamie wasn't much fun anymore. She says everyone acts like a cheap little whore around here. I don't believe in mixology. No, I'd rather stay home and drink with myself for free. Sounds cool, it sounds nice, but I know a place where you won't beat the price. With strip malls, wall to wall supplies. We're going up to Rockland County.
I forgot to say something talking about that record. So I'm glad you had it on your list. So that gives me the in to bring it up again. What's the song where he mentions Lou Reed, Max's Kansas City?
Yeah.
When he introduced that song, he said, "This is a song about how Lou Reed wouldn't like my music." So I think he also said his voice sounds like Michael Bolton. And so like part of what sold me was like he seems very aware of like what he's doing and like the music that he makes and what he is and how he's perceived. So yeah, that's what I wanted to add. Yeah, cool. In one way, that is the TLM album of the year, I guess. Unless we get another match, which I don't know. Number 6 for me is the new Perfume Genius record, Glory. This record, I mean, I've been a pretty big Perfume Genius fan since the second record, Put Your Back Into It. So I've been following the career for quite a while. I've been a huge fan of some of his records. I think they've appeared in my top 10 multiple times. No Shape probably being my favorite record. I think that was like my fourth favorite of whatever year that was, 2016, 2018, something like that. Ugly Season, though, the record preceding this one, I thought was going to be like the jump the shark moment. It seemed like way too hell-bent on, ambient soundscape and like seemed like just abandoning song structure and like kind of, letting Blake Mills just run buck wild in the studio. And I didn't know if we would ever return to a record like this. So I'm very happy to report that this is like a huge return to form. I think the production is great. The songs are great. Kind of a record that I felt a little underloved. I've watched a lot of people talking about their albums of the year, and like at most this gets like a kind of like I liked it. It didn't stick with me that much. I don't remember it that much. But I think it's on par with the best material in the catalog. Just a lot of really good songs. I think people maybe didn't give it the chance it deserves just because it's like an artist that's been around a while, not like the new hip thing. But I would urge people to give it a second, third, fourth try. And yeah, I think it's great.
Can I get off without reliving history and let every echo just sing to itself? Can I move on without knowing specifics? Will memories home like a heart shaking now? It's a near horror terror taking focus.
All right, in the top 5, we go with my most listened to album this year by play count, not by total listen. A little different variation on how you track those. So it's not a long album, but it is a fun album. And that is Bury the Key by Tops. And I listened to a Tops album, or a Tops song, because it was suggested by Leslie from Discord. It was from their last album. And I was like, all right, this is pretty cool. I like the sound of this. Bright indie pop, female singer, right up my alley. Oh, look, I have an album from this year. Oh, look, it's Bury the Key. And I listened to it, and then I just kept listening to it over and over again. And I definitely enjoyed this sound better. This is what they call their dark evil disco album. These are songs filled with longing, doing wrong, fear, loathing, just kind of this dark overtone to everything, despite the dancey kind of indie pop nature of the music. It's got sort of the, stereotypical coolie, ethereal female vocals. Um, Great palette though of synths. You got jangle guitars and recorders and a rhythm section straight out of the late 70s. Smooth, sophisticated, really well played and performed. There's some great moments of yacht rock guitar on wheels at night. And it's got this sort of like modern indie bounce of ICU2. And then it also manages to throw in a fantastically uh, little Larry Carlton-esque guitar solo in there as well for good measure. I wouldn't say anything here is like revolutionary, but it just was so like just earworm kind of dig into your brain kind of catchy. Kept me coming back for more and more and more and more, and just couldn't stop listening to it. So that's why it's all the way up here at number 5. Bury the Key, Tops.
Number 5 for me is another like return to form. I've got Cover the Mirrors by Ben Queller. I am a massive fan of the first few Ben Queller records, one of my favorite songwriters of that era. And this record, maybe you know, maybe you don't, but his son died in a car accident. I think it was like 2 years ago now. And I don't know what I expected this record to be, but it walks the tightrope so well of like acknowledging the situation, even directly talking about it and being emotional and vulnerable, and then also like being celebratory, but also like still being his old self and like still having these incredible pop moments and incredible tunefulness. It's the best set of songs he's written since at least his self-titled record, which was his third record in 2006, I think. So I think it's been a long time since he's had a set of songs this strong. And it's just a masterful way of, dealing with what happened, the tragedy that occurred. So it's the only record to make me cry this year. So there's incredible, like powerful emotional moments on this record, but it's classic Ben Queller too. It's so catchy. It's just a lot of fun in places, and I think it's a great record. Probably didn't get enough attention, but yeah, people should check it out. You got some great guest appearances: MJ Lenderman on a track, Katie from Waxahachie on a track, Coconut Records, Jason Schwartzman. Yeah, it's a pop gem.
Summer smile, a breezy laugh, long hair waves in the wind. Nothing like being by his side. Wish I could see him again. Oh, Dorian, where did you go?
That one, that was in my top 50. I don't know if I re-listened to it. That was one that I wanted to, but I'm not sure if I got a chance to. I believe it was on my mid-year list that we did. Number 4, just a visceral, just put it on, just get rocked kind of album. It's The Spin from Messa. And not a great year for metal, really. There wasn't that much I enjoyed, but I did enjoy this a lot. Um, Band from Italy. Never really heard of them before, but um, I guess I gotta go back and listen to the rest of their stuff now. This is a fantastically gothic metal powerhouse album. They called their song, they called their sound Scarlet Doom. That was what the band calls their sound, Scarlet Doom. This expands that, adds some 80s influences, you get like Merciful Fate and Sisters of Mercy, and maybe even something like The Cult to go along with the usual, kind of Sabbath, Ref, Doom, Sludge Fest. What separates them, I think for me, is the vocalist, Sarah B. That's her name. I couldn't find the last name. It's just Sarah B. She has a crazy powerful voice, kind of almost reminds me of Florence and the Machine a little bit, and just like that powerhouse ability to just get sonically huge. And then musically, a lot of windy, twisty riffage that, you kind of expect from good gothic metal bands these days. And a couple of good, like, neoclassical guitar solos as well. Just a nice balance between, like, doom, sludge metal, and maybe a little bit of, like, the new wave of British heavy metal that combines the best of both in a sound that stays pretty fresh and just kind of rocks the, crap out of you. And that's sometimes all you need. Um, that's what I needed here.
That is one I've not even heard of or heard mentioned by anyone.
They're kind of I don't know if they're like an RYM band, but I saw them mentioned on a couple like the metal lists.
Number 4 for me is Billionaire by Kathleen Edwards. Just Kathleen Edwards, always good, always super consistent, great songwriter. And for her to be this late in her career, and I think this is like not only consistent and up to her usual standard, but I think it kind of crushes her usual consistency. I think it just is a leveling up in almost every way. I think the songwriting is incredible on this record. It sounds great. Co-produced by Jason Isbell and Gina Johnson. The band, hand chosen by Isbell, they just absolutely crush on this record. Some of the best guitar solos of the year. It sounds so good, and if that's a genre that you're into, that kind of Americana rock, kind of petty-esque in a way. If you like Jason Isbell, you should definitely check this record out. It absolutely crushes.
Yeah, that was a good album. Liked it. 4 stars.
I love this album. It's a little country, a little rock, tons of tasty melodies. I don't think it's too much of a stretch to say it's somewhat Beatlesque in the melody department. Some nice pedal steel, keyboards, guitar, drums, bass, all tastefully played. Nordista has a great voice, and I dig the lyrics too. The album has good variety, yet it all flows together nicely. It never gets dull. There are no bad tunes here. The singles Station Vacation and A Little Bit Longer are particularly excellent, but my favorite track is Comeback Rock, which, true to its title, really does rock, and I love that title, so clever. There are some delicious harmonies in there, and Nordista's voice goes way up in a few places. This album is a sheer delight. You don't want to miss it.
All right, top three. Here's an album that I talked about on the channel back when we reviewed new stuff a long time ago. I believe this is a solo effort for me. I got People Watching, Sam Fender. And this is just that big Heartland rock, just over the top, anthemic, you know, basically war on drugs styled take on Americana type Bruce Springsteen-ish music from a guy from Britain. Um, Sam Fender, who I think burst onto people's radars with 17 Going Under in 2021. His third album here, um, produced by Adam Granduciel of War on Drugs. So you kind of know what it's going to sound like. It's going to sound like Red Eyes from the War on Drugs. It's got that just big, expansive, 80s influenced, kind of Dire Straits, Bruce Springsteen-ish kind of gallop to a lot of it. Starting off with the title track, People Watching. And it's just kind of a sound that I love and don't really care who's doing it as long as somebody is. I think Sam Fender has a great voice. I think he's a great guitar player. I think he's just a needed voice in the rock universe. And these songs, you could say that they're a little too much War on Drugs light sounding, but to me, I don't really care because they're just all really catchy. They have some absolutely killer guitar parts. The guitar solo on Wild Long Lie is just absolutely awesome. Just like lightning crash of electricity. And I don't know, you got like saxophone solos at the end of these songs, just like triumphant, cathartic, like here we go, like, the end of a cheesy 80s movie. You're gonna have this kind of riding out with the hero. And that's just the kind of stuff that really, really works on me. I'm an easy mark for music like this, that big, cathartic, over the top, anthemic, heartland rock with excellent hooks and phenomenal instrumentation. And that's just who I am, and I don't apologize for it. And that's why Sam Fender, People Watching, is my number 3 album of the year, up to 4.5 stars finally.
People watch on the way back home. Everybody on the treadmill running. Out of the billboards, out of the heat. Somebody's dying, on the streets tonight. All cars start burning. I see the whole town fall. People watch on the way back home. People watch on the way back
Finally. All right. I've been at 4.5 this whole time since number 45. I forgot to say though, number 4, Kathleen Edwards, was my first 5-star. So I've got 4 5s this year. My number 3 is Year of the Slug by Caroline Rose, who has been very outspoken about the state of the music industry and how shitty it's been, and how hard it is to tour and everyone gets your music for free. So she didn't put this record on streaming services. I think you could stream it for like a week before it came out, and then after that, the only way to hear it was to buy it. And additionally, like the cost of even just having a band. So this is recorded, I think, mostly or maybe entirely on a phone into GarageBand. It has this very like intimate demo-y quality, and somehow it sounds so amazing. It sounds so good. we actually, this is a record that was pressed at Hellbender, and when Dylan Seavey was visiting the plant, he asked our QC guy what the best sounding record of the year was, and he said it was this one, which I was surprised to hear him say. Um, but the songs are so good, really, really memorable, and for being so stripped down and just like bare bones, it's just amazing to see like how strong a song can still be in that kind of bare state. And honestly, you don't even miss the arrangements and all the other stuff going on. Just everything's so well written. It sounds so good. And I think this, might be her best record. I don't know, but it's extremely good. And I appreciate the stance she's taking.
It's been a long time coming, knowing you were around. They shut the sugar factory down and it's all gone to snail. Ooh, it's been a long time coming, seeing your face. I think the last time I saw you, you were deep in a hole of liquid.
Well, I tried to listen to that album like 5 times, and I forgot every time that it wasn't on streaming. I was like, oh, I gotta check out Caroline Rose. Doot, 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 doot. Doesn't exist. Damn it. And then I just didn't listen to it. So I'll take your word for it, I guess. Number 2 and number 1 here, just very Joe core artists, I think. Nothing surprising, not for me. So, oh well. I just can't, hide who I am. Number 2 is Spelling, Portrait of My Heart. And I just think this is such a cool album and such a cool sort of direction for her to take. Her last all original studio album, Turning Wheel, it's a big RYM and Fantano favorite. He gave it a 10. And I liked it. I think it was in my top 10 for 2021 or whenever it came out. I thought it was very good. Maybe a little too in love with Kate Bush, Tori Amos, for it to be like an all-timer for me, but I thought it was good. This album, she jettisons the fairy tales for something much more unexpected. At least when I first heard the first song from it, I was like, what the hell is this? This is a complete 180. You get these like big grungy guitars, kind of punk prog, emotional therapy sessions, all these visceral rock and roll riffs. Just a complete change of direction. This is not the floaty sort of fairy tale gossamer kind of cooing and what she was doing on her last albums. And apparently change was disappointing, and some people didn't take to it, and they would prefer stereotypical kind of female vocal parts and roles. But to me, music right now is interesting because of outsiders taking on, different new genres and styles that years ago you just wouldn't hear. And it's why like 70% of my list is female fronted, I think, at this point, either solo artists or female fronted bands. And Portrait of My Heart is kind of exactly that. It's something unexpected and outside of the bounds that you'd usually get. I mean, she's a black artist of Mexican descent, and this is just not the type of music you get from artists like, stereotype as you want. Like, you just don't hear that. So this is a completely new voice kind of delving into this style that was pretty much exclusively, white, or if not white, then male. And she's bringing like alt rock, grungy guitars, powerful guitar forward music. And I think if she can open that, type of music up for a whole new generation, I think it's even better, because I like this avenue of rock music. And I like the theatricality, kind of bold in like an MCR Coheed kind of way almost at times. Kind of out there, hard on your sleeve, but out in space type emotional, anthemic music. And I love Cabral's live acrobatic vocals. Got some great lush pianos. There's some cool guitar solos on here. Song Ammunition has like this Love Lies Bleeding inspired number, which is awesome. And it's just great, in my opinion, to hear a fresh voice instilling some new life, some new blood into a genre that just kind of, I feel like, had just run its course in the annals of history. It's pretty much everything had been said, I think, with this type of music until now. And I think it's very cool of her to want to and to go for that type of direction with this much gusto. So, very cool.
Get back, get out, boy. Get back, get out, won't take you back this time. Gonna think you'll ever find.
All right, my number 2 is a record that apparently you hated. I discovered it late. I think it came out in the first half of the year. I did not hear it until the period where I was just trying to catch up on things that I missed. So I've only known this record for a few weeks, and I've listened to it a ton in that time. It's really taken over. And yeah, I just think it's great. I listened to it probably like 5 times in a row, which I like never do with a record, and I had to make sure that it was deserving of the number 2 spot. I have the self-titled Racing Mount Pleasant record, which I don't know, I'm a little surprised you dislike it so much, but it's getting a lot of comparisons to Black Country New Road. I guess they like own horns and Baroque instrumentation now. Anything that has those things is going to be compared to Black Country New Road from now on. I don't think that that's a great comparison. To me, this reminds me of earlier bands like Typhoon or maybe Fanfarlo or things like that. Just these big kind of like collective feeling type of bands. The songs, I think, are so emotional, and I think the way that each song builds is just incredibly masterful, especially the track Emily. That track is incredible, and you get these like huge squalls of horns at the end, which are just unbelievable. The track Seminary, I think, has a very interesting feel to it. It reminds me of like early Bon Iver stuff. I don't know. I keep seeing over and over again people say that this is like Black Country New Road, and I personally think it is way cooler than that, way more interesting. And if you like Baroque elements, but not like super Baroque, like kind of this like big indie bands that sound like they have 20 people in them, this is the thing for this year.
I feel like maybe it's his voice a little bit and the like use of crescendos, which maybe overdoes it a little bit. I think that's why I thought I was like, this is a little Black Country New Roadish. Like it's very much like slow build to that big crescendo rock.
It is crescendo after crescendo, but man, they're good crescendos.
I listened to it once. I didn't hate it. It wasn't in my bottom like 25 or anything like that.
I think I saw that you gave it a 2.5 though.
Did I? Maybe I did. I'll have to listen to it again. I didn't mark it down on my list, so I must have forgotten about it. That is very interesting. Very interesting from you, of all people. I don't know what your number one is, but we'll find out soon. My number one, five-star album. I'm going there with Nourished by Time's new album, The Passionate Ones. And I just love it when artists that I've never talked to and have no contact with do exactly what I want them to do. And that is what happened with Nourished by Time. If I could give if I could have given him a roadmap of like all the things I like and all of the things to do to make me like your next album more, like he would just like check mark all of them. Um, Passionate Ones is his first on XL Records, his first since leaving his parents' basement, basically. And it's just everything about it. The beats are better, the grooves are harder, the hooks are better, the songwriting's tighter. Everything. It's just the progression is so excellent. It's like when you have a quarterback and you see him as a rookie and you're like, oh man, that guy's got all the promise in the world. And then year two comes around and it's like Tom Brady winning the Super Bowl, puts it all together. He's already had, he found his sound. He created this unique, interesting, pretty much beyond easy explanation type of sound. The proxies are like Bones Thugs in Harmony without the rapping, or PM Dawn with stronger songwriting, with touches of like shoegaze and 80s pop and like, synth pop from the late 80s with like New Order. All these kind of weird elements that he combines that just totally work. No one else is going to make an album like this or sound like this ever. I don't think they could. He was a student of Berklee School of Music, and he's just on kind of like a genius level when it comes to making whatever he wants to make and creating these synth sounds and beats. And I absolutely love it. The songwriting's great. Automatic Love kicks things off, just like straight pop R&B banger. 925 has a hammering Baltimore club beat. This cool chopped and sampled vocal part that kind of acts like a chipmunk soul part, briefly brightening the otherwise dark mood. When the War is Over has this really just pretty Joni Mitchell-esque Joni Mitchell-esque piano part that kind of starts the song and then brings in this 90s dance beat to just kind of take things away. The close of the Passionate Ones is this gutting cross between 80s synth pop and New Jack Swing. Kind of gets some like New Order in there, Bizarre Love Triangle kind of type stuff, and it all has this sort of like R&B feel to it as well. And it's just a totally unique, totally cool sound that just totally blew me away, and just everything that I could have asked for in a Nourished by Time album, he delivers in spades, and that is why is my winner, my five-star number one for 2025 for the Passionate Ones.
I knew that was coming, but then I forgot that was coming. My number one, I don't know if I've spoken much about it out loud or to the Discord. I definitely mentioned it, liking it maybe, but I don't know if people know how much I've been into this record, and I've been into it heavily pretty much since it came out. My number one for 2025 is Sounds Like Flory. This record, I don't know. So in 2023, my album of the year was Rat Saw God by Wednesday. And since then, that sound has just completely exploded. So many bands are doing that sound. And I guess Flory is one of them. But my feelings about that genre, a lot of records in that world this year, I thought were good. Not many of them blew me away. And even the Wednesday record, obviously, missed my top 25. a lot of 3.5, 4-star albums in that field. Uh, and it just started to feel very predictable. This record, to me, kind of just steps over all of those other records. And I think where like Wednesday set the bar for what that genre could be, um, this just like, I think completely obliterates the bar. And also, I think just kind of it doesn't feel like a band chasing the Wednesdays sound like so many of those other bands do. This is, I think, its own thing. It just happened to come ever so slightly later, but this was like bubbling under and happening at the same time that Wednesday was. And John on the channel, the Digital Gramophone, had this, I think it was his number 6, and he said, if Brown Horse was this year's Neil Young, then Flory is this year's Rolling Stones. And I think Flory is this year's Neil Young and Rolling Stones and Dinosaur Jr. And you could list maybe 10 other bands. I think this is just like a ferocious rock and roll record, and just completely confident and self-assured, and just like, you know, blowing your hair back with loud guitars and wild abandon and creative and funny lyrics. And I saw them live this year in like a 200 cap room, and it was absolutely incredible. And the record sounds and feels like the way the live show did. There's no frills here. It is the sound of a band playing together and just absolutely taking no prisoners. And I just think it's the best record of the year. The songs are, like I said, that they rock, but they're all like so memorable. Guitar hooks abound. The vocals, I know, are probably an issue for some people, but for Joe, I'm sure, yeah. But they're delivered with just like the most confident vocal deliveries of the year, I think. Just they are basically like, you know, if you like us or not, this is what we are. Here it is. And I think it is the type of record we need more of, just bands just letting it rip.
I wrote a movie, and I wrote a song. I shot my life up, and I put it on paper. I ended up being too long.
I think I gave it 3.5 stars. I didn't expect you to like it as much, because to me it sounds a lot more like Ditch Trilogy Neil Young than you seem to like.
Mm,
Maybe less so this first one. Their last one, The Holy Bible, I was like, wow, this is tonight's the night. Like, damn. Maybe
I
this
like
one a little less so.
I like this way more than the Holy Bible.
Okay, well, there you go. There you go.
I even had to go back to the Holy Bible, and I like the Holy. I actually didn't like the Holy Bible very much, whatever year that came out. I gave it a pretty
23.
low score,
Yeah.
and then I had to go back to it and be like, did they make that big of a leap? Like, really? And I do like the Holy Bible more than I thought I did, but still, I think this new record just crushes it.
Well, interesting. Very interesting.
Every song is an incredible tune on here. It is just wall to wall for me. There you go. Those are our top 25 favorite albums each. 49 different albums. Hopefully you'll find something in here to relate to us with that you also loved, but also maybe you'll find some things that sound intriguing and worth checking out. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.